They say childhood is supposed to be simple, filled with crayons, warm meals, and bedtime stories. But for Maya Johnson, life was anything but simple. At just 12 years old, she was already fighting battles most adults couldn't even imagine. On the cracked sidewalks of Detroit, with nothing but her mother's fragile mind to cling to, Maya dreamed of a world far away from hunger, stairs, and cold nights. She dreamed of a school desk, of chalk on a blackboard, of books that smelled of fresh pages. Her story begins in places most people would look away from. But it doesn't end there. Maya Johnson sat cross-legged on the edge of a crumbling sidewalk, the autumn chill creeping into her bones. Detroit mornings carried a sharp kind of cold, the kind that sliced through thin sweaters and left your skin prickled. She pulled her mother's oversized coat tighter around herself, even though the sleeves dragged along the ground. Beside her, her mother Angela was humming softly, rocking back and forth. Sometimes the humming turned into laughter. Sometimes it twisted into sudden shouts at no one at all. Today, it was just a soft tune, almost like a lullaby. Maya reached for her mother's hand. "Mama," she whispered, shaking it gently, "you should eat something." Angela turned, her brown eyes hazy, as if she were looking straight through her daughter. "He'll come back when it rains," she muttered. "He always comes back in the rain." Maya didn't ask who he was anymore. She knew her mother was talking about the man she had never met, her father. It was always raining and promises that never existed. The city stirred around them. Cars honked, buses rumbled by, and people rushed down the sidewalks carrying coffee cups and briefcases. Some avoided looking at Maya and her mother. Others glanced just long enough to frown. A few tossed loose coins their way. The clinking sound landing heavier than the metal itself. One man sneered as he stepped over them. "Get a job! Don't raise your kid in the street." Maya lowered her head, letting her curls shadow her face. She didn't cry. She hadn't cried in a long time. Crying wasted energy, and she needed all of hers to survive. Her stomach growled loudly, but she ignored it. Hunger was normal. Dreams weren't. Maya had been to school once, 2 whole years of it. She remembered the way the chalk squeaked on the blackboard, the smell of sharpened pencils, and the thrill of reading out loud. But when the tuition bills came and there was no money to pay, she was asked not to return. She remembered clutching her books, begging her teacher to let her stay. But rules were rules. Education in her world was a privilege, not a right. Still, Maya read anything she could find. Discarded newspapers, grocery flyers, even the labels on old cans. Words were her escape, her rebellion against the life that wanted to keep her small. That morning, a sound cut through the usual noise of the city. A voice, soft and curious. "Sweetheart, what's your name?" Maya lifted her head slowly. Standing a few feet away was a woman she had never seen before. She was a white, heavy-set woman with kind gray eyes and a scarf wrapped around her neck. She carried a grocery bag in one arm and a coffee in the other. Maya blinked, unsure if the question was even meant for her. People didn't ask her name. People usually told her to move. The woman crouched down so their eyes met. "It's okay, honey. I'm not here to hurt you. I see you out here all the time." Maya swallowed, her throat dry. "Maya," she said, barely more than a whisper. The woman smiled gently. "Maya, that's a beautiful name. My name's Mrs. Thompson." She extended her hand, and for a moment, Maya just stared at it. Finally, she placed her small, cold hand in the woman's. It was warm, safe. Angela suddenly burst into laughter beside them, clapping her hands. The rain! He's coming with the rain! Mrs. Thompson glanced at Angela briefly, but didn't flinch the way most people did. She turned her focus back to Maya. Do you go to school, sweetheart? Maya shook her head, heat creeping into her cheeks. Not anymore. Something flickered across Mrs. Thompson's face. Sadness, maybe, or understanding. She reached into her grocery bag, pulled out a granola bar, and handed it to Maya. Here, for you. Maya's hands trembled as she took it. She wanted to devour it right away, but instead, she broke it in half. One piece for her, one piece carefully placed in her mother's lap. Mrs. Thompson watched silently, her eyes glistening. You're a good girl, she murmured. That was the first time Maya felt truly seen. Not as a nuisance, not as the dirty kid on the sidewalk, but as Maya. The next day, Mrs. Thompson returned. This time, she brought her daughter. Emily Thompson was 12 too, though you wouldn't know they were the same age. Where Maya wore worn-out sneakers with holes in the toes, Emily wore shiny pink Converse. Where Maya's hair was uncombed curls that clung stubbornly to her forehead, Emily's blonde hair was tied neatly with a ribbon. Her cheeks were rosy from the warmth of her family's home, not the bite of the wind. Emily clutched a notebook to her chest, looking shyly at Maya. Mrs. Thompson knelt down again. Maya, this is my daughter Emily. She wanted to meet you. Maya tilted her head, unsure. Kids at school had once laughed at her patched clothes and called her trash girl. She didn't trust easily. But Emily smiled nervously and held out her notebook. I'm not good at math, she admitted. Mom says you're really smart. Maya blinked. No one had ever said that out loud before, not like it was a compliment. Emily flipped open the notebook, showing scribbled fractions and multiplication problems. Would you help me? Maya hesitated, then slowly nodded. She crouched down, picked up a broken piece of chalk she kept in her pocket, and used the sidewalk as a blackboard. Numbers came alive under her hand. She explained patiently, her voice steady, her mind sharp. Emily watched in awe. You make it sound easy, she whispered. For the first time in a long time, Maya smiled. Teaching Emily didn't just make her feel useful, it made her feel powerful. From that day forward, Emily and Mrs. Thompson came back again and again. Sometimes they brought food, sometimes just schoolwork. Emily sat cross-legged on the sidewalk next to Maya, giggling when she got an answer right, groaning when Maya made her redo a problem. Maya found herself looking forward to those afternoons. For once, her world wasn't just hunger and survival. For once, she was the teacher. But what Maya didn't know was that not everyone would approve. Because when Mr. Thompson, Emily's wealthy, powerful father, discovered who was teaching his daughter, the fragile hope Maya had found would be tested in ways she never imagined. The sun dipped lower over Detroit, casting long orange shadows across the cracked sidewalks. For Maya, those afternoons with Emily had become the brightest part of her week. It didn't matter that they sat on the ground with traffic roaring by, or that her stomach often growled with emptiness. When Emily opened her notebook and looked at her with expectant eyes, Maya felt something she hadn't felt in years. Purpose. Emily laughed a lot. The kind of laugh that came from someone who had never worried about their next meal. But she wasn't cruel. She didn't tease Maya about her old coat or messy curls. Instead, she listened. She tried. She treated Maya as if she were more than the homeless kid on the corner. "You should be a teacher," Emily said one afternoon as Maya explained how to reduce fractions. Maya's heart swelled, though she shrugged it off. "Teachers go to college. I don't even go to school." Emily looked down at her notebook, chewing her pencil. "You're still better than my math teacher. You don't yell when I mess up." That single sentence stuck with Maya. For the first time, she believed she had something to give, something valuable, something real. But while the girls grew closer, Mrs. Thompson worried. She knew her husband, and she knew he wouldn't see the beauty in what Maya was doing. Mr. Richard Thompson was a man of precision and power, tall, broad-shouldered. With silver-streaked hair, always combed neatly back, he had built his fortune in real estate. He was respected in business circles and feared at home for his temper. What mattered to him was his image, how his family was perceived by the world. When Mrs. Thompson first mentioned Maya, he dismissed her with a wave. "Don't start something we can't finish, Carol," he said. "Those people aren't our responsibility." Carol didn't argue. She knew better. But quietly, she kept returning to the sidewalk, bringing Emily along, watching the friendship bloom in secret. Until one evening, when the secret slipped. It was a Friday night. The Thompson family sat at their polished oak dining table, candles flickering against crystal glasses. Emily twirled spaghetti on her fork absent-mindedly, her mind clearly somewhere else. "Emily," Richard said sharply, noticing her distraction. "What's going on? You've been acting odd all week." Emily hesitated, glancing at her mother. Carol froze, her hand tightening on her napkin. I've been doing better in math," Emily blurted. Richard raised an eyebrow. "Oh, that's good. Did your tutor finally figure out how to get through to you?" Emily shook her head quickly. "No, it's not Mrs. Carter. She trailed off, unsure. Richard's fork clinked against his plate. "It's what?" Emily's cheeks flushed pink. "It's Maya. She helps me." Richard frowned. "Maya? Who's Maya?" The silence stretched until Carol finally whispered, "She's a girl from the neighborhood." Richard's eyes narrowed. "What neighborhood?" Emily, too innocent to understand the danger, piped up. "She lives near the gas station on Jefferson, with her mom. They don't really have a house." The room went still. Richard's face hardened. "You mean to tell me," he said slowly, "that my daughter has been sitting on the sidewalk with some homeless kid instead of studying with her actual tutor?" Carol tried to intervene. "Richard, please, it's not what you think. Maya is brilliant. She's been helping Emily more than anyone else." "Brilliant?" his voice thundered. "She's a beggar, Carol, a street rat, and you've been letting my daughter spend time with her?" Emily's eyes filled with tears. "Dad, she's not like that. She's really smart, and she's nice. She's my friend." Richard slammed his fist against the table, the crystal glasses rattling. "Enough! This ends now." The next afternoon, Maya sat on the sidewalk, humming softly as she sketched multiplication problems with her chalk. She had been waiting for Emily, her broken sneakers tapping nervously against the concrete. But instead of Emily, a black Cadillac pulled up. The tinted window rolled down, and Richard Thompson's cold gray eyes locked onto her. "Are you Maya?" he asked flatly. Maya froze, her small hand gripping the chalk tighter. "Yes, sir." Richard stepped out of the car, his polished shoes gleaming against the dirty pavement. He towered over her, his shadow swallowing her completely. "I don't know what game you're playing," he said, his voice low but sharp, "but my daughter will not be a part of it." Maya blinked, confused. "I'm just helping her with homework, sir." Richard leaned closer, his tone cutting. "Listen carefully. Stay away from Emily. You hear me? Stay away. If I ever see you near her again, you and your mother will regret it." Maya's chest tightened, fear clawing its way up her throat. She wanted to speak, to explain that all she wanted was to learn, to share what she knew. But the words lodged in her chest. She nodded, clutching her chalk like a lifeline. Richard straightened, adjusting his cufflinks as if the conversation were already forgotten. He slid back into his car, slammed the door, and the Cadillac roared away. Maya sat frozen for a long time after the car disappeared, her heart pounding. She had faced insults before, stares before, even hunger before. But this was different. This was power pressing down on her, reminding her of her place. Beside her, Angela suddenly began to clap and laugh at the empty street. "The rain, Maya! The rain will wash it all away!" But Maya didn't laugh. For the first time in weeks, she felt her fragile hope slipping. And yet, deep inside, another feeling stirred. Something small, but unbreakable. Anger. Because Maya had tasted what it felt like to matter, and she wasn't ready to let it go. The days after Richard Thompson's warning stretched on like heavy gray clouds. Maya still sat on the same broken sidewalk with her mother, chalk in hand, but her heart wasn't the same. Every time she scribbled numbers, she saw his eyes, cold, sharp, filled with contempt. His words echoed inside her. "Stay away. You'll regret it." For the first time since she'd met Emily, Maya doubted herself. Maybe she really was just a street kid who didn't belong anywhere near a mansion, a school, or even a real desk. Angela, lost in her own fractured world, offered no comfort. Some days she laughed, other days she cried, and sometimes she didn't move at all. Maya kept caring for her, sharing scraps of food, tucking her mother into a thin blanket at night. But loneliness pressed harder than ever. Still, every afternoon, Maya waited. She couldn't stop herself. Some part of her believed Emily might come back. And then, one chilly Saturday morning, she did. Emily came running down the block, her blonde hair flying loose from its ribbon, her cheeks red from the cold. She clutched a backpack and skidded to a stop right in front of Maya. "Maya!" she gasped, out of breath. Maya's heart leapt, but fear quickly followed. "Emily, what are you doing here? If your dad—" "I don't care what he says," Emily blurted, her voice trembling. "You're my friend, and you're the only reason I'm even passing math. I'm not letting him take you away from me." Maya shook her head, glancing nervously at the street. "He's serious, Emily. He'll hurt us," he said. "I don't care." Emily's eyes shone with tears. She opened her backpack, pulling out a workbook. "Please, just one more lesson. I can't do this without you." Maya stared at her for a long moment. Against every warning in her head, against every fear in her chest, she nodded. She picked up her chalk and drew a long division problem on the sidewalk. The two girls bent over the numbers together, the city rushing past them as if nothing else mattered. And for those moments, nothing did. But secrets like theirs never stayed hidden for long. Richard Thompson's Cadillac rolled to a slow stop at the end of the block. He stepped out, his polished shoes clicking against the concrete, his face thunderous with rage. "Emily!" His voice cracked through the air like a whip. Emily froze, her pencil slipping from her hand. Maya's chalk dropped too, shattering into dust. "Get in the car, now!" Emily's chin trembled, but she didn't move. "Dad, please!" Richard's eyes snapped to Maya, blazing. I warned you. Before he could step closer, another voice cut through the tension. Is there a problem here? It was Mrs. Thompson. She had followed, her coat wrapped tightly around her, her eyes steady on her husband. She walked straight to Emily's side, placing a protective arm around her daughter. Yes, there's a problem, Richard growled. Our daughter is sitting on the ground with this stray when she should be at home. Do you know how it looks? What will people think if they see her like this? Mrs. Thompson didn't flinch. I don't care how it looks, Richard. This girl has been teaching Emily. She's the reason our daughter has any confidence left in herself. Richard's face turned crimson. Confidence? She doesn't need confidence from a homeless beggar. Maya felt the sting in her chest, sharper than any hunger pang. She lowered her eyes, ready to shrink back into herself. But Emily stepped forward. Her small voice trembled, yet it carried more courage than anyone expected. She's not a beggar, Dad. She's my teacher. She's my friend. And if you can't see that, then maybe you're the one who should be ashamed. The world seemed to stop. Richard's jaw dropped slightly, stunned that his daughter had spoken against him. Maya's breath caught. No one had ever defended her before, not like this. Mrs. Thompson squeezed Emily's shoulder proudly. She's right, Richard. You always say you want Emily to succeed. Well, this is how she does it, with Maya's help. Richard stood frozen, caught between anger and disbelief. He looked at his daughter, at his wife, at the girl with chalk-stained fingers and eyes full of quiet fire. For the first time, he saw not just a homeless kid, but a child his daughter loved and respected. He exhaled sharply, turning away. This is ridiculous, he muttered, striding back to the car. But he allowed them again. That night, as Maya lay beside her mother under their worn blanket, she thought about what had happened. She thought about Emily's voice, firm and brave, about Mrs. Thompson's steady gaze, about Richard's silence when faced with the truth. For the first time in her life, Maya felt something more substantial than fear. She felt hope, not the fragile kind that slipped away with hunger, but a real glowing kind, the kind that grows when someone finally believes in you. She whispered into the night, "One day, Mama, one day I'll be more than this sidewalk." Her mother stirred, murmuring in her sleep, the rain will bring him back." Maya closed her eyes, clutching the broken chalk in her fist. No, she wasn't waiting for rain, or for someone who would never come back. She was waiting for her chance. And she knew now, deep in her bones, that it would come. The girl who never stopped dreaming. Years later, when people asked Emily Thompson about the turning point in her life, she never mentioned her private tutors or the expensive schools she attended. She always went back to that cold Detroit sidewalk, to a girl with chalk-stained hands who taught her how to divide fractions and how to see the world in a different light. For Maya Johnson, life was never easy. Her mother's illness didn't vanish, the hunger didn't magically disappear, and the city streets didn't suddenly become kinder. But something had shifted. She had been seen. She had been valued. And she had been defended. Sometimes that's all it takes for a child to keep fighting, for a dream to stay alive. Maya still held on to her vision, a desk, a classroom, books stacked high, and a chance to prove that she was more than the world expected her to be. And deep in her heart, she knew she would get there, because the rain wasn't going to bring anyone back. but it might just wash the old life away, making space for something new. Maya was ready. Support the channel by liking this video, subscribing, and turning on the notification bell.